Hi, my name is Gordy Hoag, and this is Community Connections. Each of us have stories that help us understand each other and help to bring our community closer together. I have been very fortunate to have met many interesting people. People who have had a positive, profound impact on our community and far beyond. People who have had incredible life experiences and fascinating stories. Community Connections is about these people and about their stories. I'm sure you'll enjoy meeting these amazing people as much as I have. Thank you. Please enjoy. Welcome to Community Connections. My name is Gordy Hoag, and today's guest grew up in White Rock, and he's made enormous contributions to our community, to our province, and indeed to our country. A member of the BC Sports, Softball Canada, and International Softball Halls of Fame, and a Sovereign Award winner as an outstanding owner of racehorses in Canada, the owner of the Derby Bar and Grill Teletheatre, and the owner of Pacific Customs Brokers, which his father started back in 1954. An amazing set of accomplishments, a get-it-done kind of guy. Welcome, Glen Todd, to Community Connections.
Thanks, Gord, and pleasure to be here.
So can you talk a little bit about where you were born and growing up?
Well, I was born half a block. Well, I was born in White Rock, but it wasn't really. I was born in Vancouver because there was no hospital like you.
Right, yeah.
Because we're the same age, but at a young age, I lived on Hatwood, by the way, about Pacific and Hatwood, I guess, and then we moved uptown to when I was really young, around 4 or 5 years old, just west of 152 or Johnson Road, you and I, a few blocks west of you, where you lived east of the 152.
I can remember actually playing, I think, roller hockey in your garage.
Yeah, we played roller hockey.
Right across, and you were busy organizing the 2-on-2 roller hockey game. So you got your start in organizing in sport pretty early.
Yeah, and Gordy was a pretty good athlete too, I might add. He was an all-around type guy and a good athlete from the time we started grade school until we graduated, I guess, in 63, I guess it was.
64, I think.
I think something like that.
Right.
I grew up in Rock and lived on the beach, and I was telling somebody just this morning, I can remember you could go to Coney Island when we were young. Get 3 pieces of fish and chips for 45 cents, right?
Which seemed like a lot of money in those days.
Yeah. And of course, the other end of town had the Silver Moon at the pier. There's a lot of history in my house that people like yourself and I can only recognize.
Yeah, we were pretty fortunate to grow up here, I think.
Yeah, me too.
So you talk a little bit about your parents met at the track in 1939. Can you talk a little bit about that and how?
Well, I wasn't around in 1939.
I know you weren't, but your parents met there. And
yeah, my grandfather had horses, and my dad was an avid horse player. And he ran into well, he was a custom officer, my grandfather, and my dad was a broker working for somebody else. So my dad ran into my grandfather with his daughter, which became my mother, and that introduction was made on Labor Day 1939, and we married shortly after, and we came to White Rock. My sister was born in Vancouver, but she lived in Vernon for a while. We were the Army camp most of my dad was a colonel in the Canadian Army. And then we moved to White Rock in 1945, and then I was born in 1946. So, like you, right? So the transition was great. So my dad started our business more or less after the Second World War with somebody else.
so you naturally had to come into horse racing then. It was part of your parents and part of growing up. And can you talk about some of your highlights in horse racing? And I think the thing that received a lot of publicity was your unofficially adopted son.
Yeah, well, I've even since even when I was in like junior high school, I was going to the races every day with my parents. And I went all over North America horse races, but as, and then I did, when I came back to White Rock in the 70s, I had a farm on 20th Avenue. So I started raising horses and racing horses myself. And then I realized that I better get back to work. It's money, which fortunately. But this young kid came along from Mexico with a garbage bag with his total content of his belongings in a garbage bag, fell off the plane from Mexico City and started to ride at Aces Park like he was 16 years old. 36, it's not 20 years ago, believe it or not. But anyways, the first he could, I noticed the talent he had right off the bat. So I started riding him on my horses, and the more he rode, the more he won. The first year he was here at 16, he made $90,000, which is pretty good for a 16-year-old kid that come from Mexico City, where 25 cents an hour would be a top wage, right? But he spent the whole 90,000 before the meet was over on friends and his next of kins here and there. So we come back the next year, and he was at it again. So I got him to this couple of neck, and I said, "Hey, you're coming with me. You're going to live with me, and there's no more of this wild and woolly stuff. You're a lot better rider than you know you are." And so I parented him for until 2012. We were in California with my horses that winter. We're about to come home because Aces Park was going to start. And I said, Mario, his name is Mario Gutierrez, as people now know pretty well in British Columbia. I said, "You're staying here." "No, I'm not. I'm coming home." I said, "No, you're staying here. You don't understand. You're far too good a rider to be riding at Aces Park in Vancouver, BC. You can ride with anybody in the world, and if you don't know it, well, I do. No, I want to go home." I said, "No, you're not coming home." So I left him there, and a week later, a trainer put him on that horse. I'll have another in the morning. And of course, it wound up winning Kentucky Derby that year with him aboard. And his career was on the balloon ever since, and still is. He's won the Kentucky Derby twice, but he won like 400 races from the year. That's a big accomplishment.
Yes.
And he is a great young man today. He really is.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's very, very grateful to you. I think one of the first people he phoned after he won that was you, I think.
That's correct.
Giving you thanks for that. That's wonderful.
He knows where he came from. He came here 2 years ago and won 3 big state races for me in a row. And he let it known that to the crowd that he knew how he got to the big time. So, really feel good.
So I want to move on a little bit to your coaching time and the development of Softball City and all of the contributions you made there, as well as to Simon Fraser University. So you started coaching, as I understand it, to coach your daughters.
Yeah, my wife decided that she was going to coach my daughters. And my wife is a good person. She did everything for my kids. They went North Shore Winter Club. She took them all, no matter what they wanted to do, they did. But so I go to this softball practice, this first game of this. My wife was the worst softball coach in history. Somehow I said, "I think I better take over here." So I took over like what's the movie called, the ragtag softball team.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Bad News Bears, right?
Yeah, Bad News Bears.
It was almost like that, but we did win the provincial championship by the end of that year. And I have 2 daughters. One was lower, Shelley, the oldest daughter. I actually coached her for quite a few years. And then 1986, we formed the White Rock Renegade organization, which was the elite end of White Rock softball. And we did. I actually contributed the money. Actually, probably people don't know this, to build the diamonds at Sunnyside Park, because we didn't have a place to play. So I had all those backstops built at my expense. So the White Rock Renegades started playing at Sunnyside Park, because it was the only park available where we could get on. Other than you and I used to play at Seven Animal Park, but that was like a one-time affair. So we sort of, the White Rock Renegades were really playing in South Surrey. As time progressed, the White Rock Renegades became a world power at softball. My daughter's now older, I of course moved up with them. I think we won 12 provincial championships with the team that I coached, 2 national championships. So 1993, I think, you awarded us, when we were the mayor of White Rock, with a outstanding award for the city when we swept all the national championships in every category in Canada. So as that progressed, and the Olympics then got put into the Olympic Games took on softball. So Softball Canada came to me and said, you know, we've got these teams, but we can't afford to go anywhere. We can't play. We don't have any funding. And at that time, we were in the midst of building Softball City for Softball British Columbia. So it was, I said, well, maybe we can do something about that. So I was walking across the parking lot after a game with Greg Tim, who's now president of my company. We're walking out to the parking lot. I said, you know what? I know how we can help them. We can bring the world here to Softball City. So we got on the kick if we were going to invite the world to come and play an international event here in South White Rock in 1993. And Softball City was finished and progressed to a pretty good place to play ball. And so we brought the world to Surrey, South Surrey, White Rock, with a lot of support from Surrey and White Rock, by the way, to make that event go. Or you would have gone with it there since day one, even after I retired. The event still goes on, and we still volunteer. And a lot of people that were there from day one are still there. So it's become a world renowned event. You know, the people from Chinese Taipei said this is better than the World Championship here. It should be called the World Series in South Surrey every year. We have some great stories.
It is a wonderful story.
Doug McCallum went to China with a congregation of people and got off the flight, and President of China, when he departed the plane, the first words he said to Doug McCallum was, "How is Glen Todd?" So that tournament got really well. I mean, quite an honor, I guess. In China, we have some great stories that I could go on for hours on. The first Canada Cup, we had a game between China and Chinese Taipei, which, as you know, are not Olympic. Taipei is not a recognized sport. Taipei is a recognized country, whatever. The first semi-final game was going to be Friday night. You were probably there against Chinese Taipei and China. And we were on CTV Live with John Takichi in the dugout of the Chinese doing the 6 o'clock sports on CTV. China refused to play because there were some Chinese Taipei flags in the crowd, right? So the President of Softball Canada was going ballistic. We're going to start reading off these Olympic rules. I said, let me go talk to that Chinese coach, right? So I went over to that. They were over Diamond 4, which you know where it was. I said, Coach, the game's going to start in 15 minutes. So you got 2 choices. You can get on a bus to the airport, or you can get on the field. So, okay, we'll play. So they play. Right? The next morning, we had an open breakfast for all the teams, all the coaches. They sat together, right? They were at war the night before. They're sitting together. What is going on here? So it was all politics. Yeah. There's some great stories.
Yeah, I think one of the stories in terms of the evolution of Softball City, I can remember you had this vision because it was all a forest there where Softball City was. And we used to play there when we were kids.
That's right.
But I remember you had a meeting at, I think at Earl Marriott Secondary School, and you invited a lot of people, and you had a lot of young kids in their uniforms sitting there, and you put together a pretty persuasive political process. And you had members of Surrey Council, and I was part of a panel that you had and that was going forward, and it was really interesting to watch you process that in a political sense. And then when you went to I think was it Calgary that we went to, or Regina, where you were bidding on getting the national championship.
Championship, that's right. You made the presentation.
That's so just these things just didn't happen. There was in the background, we were celebrating a number of the things, but certainly in the background, you were doing a lot of work that probably goes unnoticed to a lot of people. That things don't just happen. Softball City didn't just appear. There was a political process that you were involved in and engaged that made that the premier softball facility in the province. And you went to Softball BC, I think, and they had money every year, and you asked them to spend, instead of building little places around the province, to build a major place and put their contributions into that. So there was a lot of thought that went into the evolution and development of that facility and the growth from that.
Yeah, and then the city of Surrey now, but when we played the World Championship there a few years ago, I mean, that was the first class facility. It was like, I was astonished. I was, wow, we started this.
Yeah, it was incredible, and continues to be incredible. You connected Simon Fraser University to it, and that connection. You can talk a little bit about that and how you made that come about, and as a result of that, you received an award from Simon Fraser University for your contributions.
Yeah, I did. So when we first got going with the Renegade organization, we found, we were sending a lot of players off to U.S. colleges. So I think it's 400 or 500 kids from White Rock that have got scholarships through the Renegade organization. But I said, boy, why don't we have something here in Canada that SFU, as you well know, was an NCAA, no, NAIA school, and so they played against US. So I went to Lauren Davies and I said, Lauren, why don't you have a softball program here? And the Olympics are coming, we've got all these kids. Softball in British Columbia is becoming a very good sport, especially for girls. And he bought my idea. I had to sponsor the first year. I bought all the uniforms and equipment. But that program went on for many years, and yes, I was given honorary Fed Decrease Award as an outstanding citizen of British Columbia for SFU.
So can you talk a little bit about Pacific Customs Brokers and your life through that, and how that has grown, and then the Derby Bar and Teletheater and the evolution of that, and how much you pride yourself in the work you've done. That's the last time I tried to get in there. I couldn't get in. It was too full.
Yeah, because back in 2007, they wrote me off. They said I was going to die. So I kind of thought I better slow down. And 2007, 14 years ago, you came to visit me on my deathbed, actually, in White Rock. But going back to where we started, my dad was a customs broker here at White Rock. As time progressed, he moved to Vancouver. As I got older, then I sort of took over the business at a very young age, actually. My dad loved horse races in Canada. I didn't realize I was making all the money. He was going out to Santa Anita, Las Vegas, and enjoyed himself with my mother. So as time progressed, I sort of took over the total operation. And my dad retired in 1981. We had 13 people at that time. And, he was happy with that. And my dad made a good living. But I'm always the type of person, I guess, with my personality, that I always like to be a winner, not a loser. Always have that, I think. But, so we started to progress and grow from a beer company of 13 after my dad retired to nearly 400 people today in my organization, including the Derby Barn Grill. I have a huge horse racing operation in British Columbia and in Kentucky. A huge farm in Kentucky where I raise big horses as well. But it's all brought from the business that Pacific Custom Brokers and ABC, which is our original company. I've been very fortunate, I guess, through the time, Brady. I've done very well. I've grown a small company into a major. I had a compliment just the other day, even though I'm sort of semi-retired, but I'm not. You know, it's basically, because I still own these two different businesses. A customer, a friend of mine, was dealing with FedEx, and their shipment got messed up. And they were having problems getting it through customs. So he called me and says, I got this problem with this piece of equipment, and can you help me? I said, well, yeah, get a hold of FedEx and tell them to send the paper over to our office. We'll fix it, no problem. So he phones FedEx, and he says to the young guy on the phone, he said, I can no longer deal with you people. You know, this is a mess, and this equipment's really important that we get it through. And I just talked to Glen, Todd at Pacific Custom Brokers. He told me to send the paper over there, and his people would have it immediately. He said, did you talk to Glen Todd? He is the king of custom brokers. That came from a competitor, so I took that as a real compliment from a competitor. He is the king, right?
And so you talked a little bit about your dad, and your dad, I can remember your dad driving us to soccer games years and years ago. Can you talk about the influence he and your mother had on your life, and how you think that's what a difference that has made, or how they've been inspirational in terms of that?
My dad was actually a pretty good athlete,
Yeah.
And he played professional soccer, and played international hockey. And you're right, when sports were just starting, and you and I were young kids in White Rock, I think there wasn't a lot of coaches, so my dad became a soccer coach of White Rock Wanderers, I think we were called.
The Wanderers, I think that was the Wanderers, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we all piled into my dad's car and my sister's car off the game and go all over Surrey. My dad really enjoyed coaching soccer, and I played up to Division I, really played in the Fraser Valley League after that, until I got married and I quit. I enjoyed it. My dad was a great coach. He used to haul me off to Queen's Park Arena, because that was the only ice available in the whole lower mainland on Saturday mornings to skate. My dad would watch the Tivoli League skate. He loved sports so much. So I was brought up in a household that loved sports. And we had the first television in White Rock. And I can remember the first World Series, 1954. So I was only like 8 years old. But Mickey Mantle was Dewey Bear on the Yankees was playing the Brooklyn Dodgers. Because we had the only TV, but my dad took all the furniture out of our living room and put in chairs for people from the neighborhood come into our house and watch the World Series on 17-inch television.
Black and white, no doubt.
Yeah, black and white. Only TV in White Rock at the time.
Yeah.
But my dad was a sports nut. He'd watch anything. You know, horse racing was part of it. He loved horses. He loved horse racing. He would be the first guy in the gate at Hastings Park every day to bet on horses. First of all, he put that in my blood. It's never gone away.
So a wonderful role model.
Yeah, he was.
For growing.
He was a great guy.
Yeah, a great guy, and certainly a role model for so many of us. As I can remember riding in the car, which probably had 9 or 10 kids in it when he was driving us off to soccer, right. Probably 11 kids to make sure we had a full team.
Right.
On each other. And your mom was pretty spectacular too.
Yeah, my mother was actually, which people don't know, my mother was actually one of the originators of the White Rock Sea Festival and the Miss White Rock contest.
Yeah.
She ran it for years, actually.
Yeah.
And the White Rock Sea Festival with a number of old people that are long gone from Street. My mother was very instrumental in the Red Rock Sea Festival.
Yeah, and I think that probably the contributions that both your mother and your father have made to this community were probably ingrained in you, and that's as a result you've done so many things to make our community stronger and better, and by your volunteerism and your contributions as well. So a wonderful role model to have there. As you look back, what are the things that you feel most proud of in terms of the many contributions you made? What are the ones that stand out for you, and the awards you've won, and the way you've lived your life in this community?
Well, I think that I think softball city, of course, was a major feat, but I think bringing the Canada Cup to White Rock was a big highlight. Some of the great people that I met from around the world. The number of children and girls that we've been able to send to universities around North America, I'm very proud of that. I think that we've helped a lot of people. My business here today are supporters of many things in Surrey that I try to keep below the bar on. We feed about 2 or 3 public schools, lunch, dinner, breakfast and lunch every day, year round. That people are not aware of, but I don't want people to know what people we've made a lot of contributions in the city to different programs that I think are needy. We ran a huge Christmas program for needy people for a long time. We put on dinners. Those were some tearjerkers. Believe me, those are some tearjerkers with people. We look after Christmas, and we still look after our company about 25 families every year. Even through COVID and all, we still.
And there are lots of stories. I was talking to Dodie not that long ago, and Dodie LaFleur, and she's one of your biggest fans.
Yeah.
She worked with you for so long.
Yeah. Jack Carl, as you know, was her father.
Yeah.
And as Gordon, you remember, there was actually a stadium at Centennial Park.
That's right.
And he built it.
Yeah.
And had White Rock Motors softball team, which probably you and I attended a lot of the games on Sunday afternoons down there on the beach. But Dodie was my babysitter. So I was younger. Came to work for my father. She worked for me for right up to her retirement.
Yeah.
I love her. She loves me.
Yeah, she's a wonderful woman. And as you reference the Jack Carl Stadium down there, that people today don't realize that it really was a stadium with fences around it and stands and dugouts in the ground, and it was the big event in White Rock back in the 50s. It was sold out. It was packed, and everybody in the community went down there to watch those games. And Jack Carl brought players in from the States, brought it all over, and had a very competitive team.
Yeah, he did.
And in many ways, that may have been part of the inspiration that you saw, whether it was.
Yeah, actually, he's very Canada Cup had a Jack Carl Award.
Yeah.
Uncle Jack. He would pick me up from school in like elementary school when he and I were 5 corners and drive me off to the races with my dad. He'd take me to school, grade 1 or 2. Off I go to the track with Jack, I call him.
So what do you see for the next 10 or 15 years for yourself, the things you're involved in, and the community that you've made such a profound and positive impact upon? Are you going to take a rest, or are you going to continue to be engaged in meaningful ways? What do you see for your future?
I don't think I could ever really quit. Quit your dad, right? I'm active every day. Of courses here. The derby I built so I could retire and watch my horses run around the country. I spend quite a bit of time here. I don't really go into the office, but people come running to me all day long.
Yeah.
Questions. I still hold my hammer, right? It's my money, and I'm sort of a dictator when it comes to spending. But we've done very well. So.
Yeah. So are there any final words you'd like to leave to people who will be looking at this 25 or 50 years from now? Any messages in terms of where you see our community going and the foundation that you've helped to establish for us?
White Rock is a great place to live. It was a great place to grow up. You know, I wish I could do it all again. It was a great place in the summertime, as you well know. I mean, I lived on that beach, so it's not quite the same as it used to be. I mean, I think when you and I went to school, there was maybe 1,600 people or something lived in White Rock.
Yeah, something.
All bunch of summer houses, but it was a great place. It still is a great place. I still tell people I live in White Rock, which I don't, but I tell people I'm from White Rock. I know I live in South Langley, but I still tell people I'm from White Rock. If you will go on some of the social media platforms that I'm on, I say I'm from White Rock because I'm very proud to be a person from White Rock. And it's not quite like it used to be, but it's still a great place.
Well, Glenn, you've made enormous contributions to this community, and it wouldn't be what it is if it hadn't been for you and for your vision and for your passion for the community and the enormous donations, contributions, vision that you've had for the community, and your get it done approach that doesn't matter, we're going to get it done. And lots of people said it wasn't possible, but you saw the possibility and made it happen. Softball City being a perfect example of that. And I thank you so much for being a guest on Community Connections, for all the things you've done for this community. And I look forward to maybe getting into the Derby next time I wander down there to see if I can join you for a cup of tea or whatever it might be that day. Thank you so much, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Community Connections. Please tune in to our next show as more amazing people share their wonderful stories. If you haven't already, please click on the red subscribe button below, right down there, and view our updates. Feel free to leave any thoughts or comments that you may have. We're always trying to do a better job of connecting this wonderful community. Thanks again for joining, and until next time, keep connecting. Thank you.